Welcome to the Rise of the Trades podcast, the show dedicated to helping you to build, grow, and scale your trades or construction business. All rise for your host, Craig Wilkinson.
Welcome to this week's coaching episode of the Rise of the Trades podcast, where we help trades and construction business owners to skyrocket leads, explode net profits without having to graft 60 hours a week and becoming that busy fool. In this episode, I'm going to be teaching you the 3 biggest money mistakes that tradesmen make that will destroy your profits, kill your cash flow in your business. But before we go there, I just want to make a quick announcement. Our Inner Circle, which is my 12-month marketing and business coaching program, is now sold out and has actually started this month. I know there's many people that wanted to get on it that have missed out. So I'm launching another one in 3 months' time. So if you want to put yourself forward or express an interest in joining my next Inner Circle, please consider clicking on the link in the show notes and the description of this episode that will take you over to our priority waiting list and add yourself to our waiting list for the next Inner Circle. Now, let's transition over to this week's coaching episode. Now, there must be something in the air at the minute because inside our Growth Club and our Trades Freedom Club Facebook group and community, over this last, I'd say, couple of weeks, I've noticed that there's more and more posts or questions being added into the communities all around finances. And a lot of these are anonymous, right? So clearly, some of our members have got challenges around the cash, the finance, the money situation. So in this episode, I wanted to address that, and I'm going to kick this off by sharing a story. Now, I want you to put yourself into this story. And this story is about a fictitious plumber called Dave. Let's call him Dave. Now, you might be saying, Craig, I'm not a plumber and I'm not called Dave. Listen, it doesn't matter what trade you're in. Hear me out as I walk you through this example that we see all the time. Now, Dave is grafting hard in his plumbing and heating business. He's running every single job. He's flat out. He's dealing with all the leads, all the enquiries. He's wearing all these different hats. He's pricing jobs. He's surveying jobs. He's dealing with customers. He's ordering materials. He's doing his social media. He's updating his website. He's trying to build systems. He's trying to look to employ a new team. And he's absolutely flat out. But Dave, although he's flat out and he's busy, he doesn't seem to be getting ahead. He doesn't seem to be growing. His business is not growing. He feels like it's getting all a little bit stagnant and stale, and he can't seem to put his finger on what's going wrong. And you probably know Dave because you might be Dave in this example. So here's what happens. You see, Dave started off as a self-employed plumber. I'm sure just like him, you started your business off and you got yourself your van, you cobbled together your tools, and your first year, although it was daunting because it was the fear of the unknown, Dave were buzzing. He got work left, right and centre. He got work coming out of his ears. His reputation started to grow. He got word of mouth referrals coming in and his phone didn't stop. But here's the thing. He never stopped once to look, focus and figure out the numbers in his business. He just looked at his bank account at the end of every week and at the end of every month, saw money was in there and thought, do you know what? I'm doing all right. I must be growing my business because I'm busy. I've got all this work on and I've got money in the bank. But what Dave didn't realise by not understanding his numbers is that every time he priced a boiler job, let's say, he was charging less than he should have been. And he covered his materials and his labour. Yeah, brilliant. But what about the overhead contribution that he should have factored in? What about looking at his gross profit and his net profit figures? What about putting his tax money to one side so he weren't using his tax or his VAT money as an overdraft facility? See, nobody ever told Dave that pricing a job is not just labour and materials and stick a bit on the top and keep your fingers crossed and hope for the best. And all that time driving around for free, surveying, doing home surveys, looking at jobs, all his own time, all his own diesel money, right? Who's paying for all that? That should be factored into the overhead contribution in the first place when he were pricing his jobs, but he were naive. And then on top of that, he were getting them callbacks where he got a small leak and something weren't quite right. So we're having nipped back to the job. Now, all that's eating into whatever little profit Dave were making. He wasn't charging enough. And he was scared that the customer would say, do you know what, Dave? I've had 3 quotes. I'd love to go with you, but you're too expensive. The other 2 quotes have come in less than you. Therefore, I'm not using you. And he used to put quotes together, look at the price and go, really? Can I charge that? And then pluck a figure, a random figure out of fresh air and go, no, I'll tell you what, I'll knock 500 quid off and I'll put it in at that. Now on paper, this business looked busy, but in reality, it was working his backside and his balls off for absolute peanuts. And then, here's where it started to bite. You see, Dave's van broke down and he didn't have any cash set to one side. He'd maxed out his credit cards already and now his gearbox has gone and he's been quoted $3,000 for a new gearbox. The tax bill then landed and came in, and guess what? He'd already spent his tax money because he'd been using it as an overdraft to bail himself out on previous jobs. He thought that just having money in the bank was enough until HMRC soon reminded him otherwise. Suppliers started chasing him because now he's behind on paying his suppliers and wholesalers. The stress started to pile up, and here's the killer. Even though he was out of the house grafting for 12 hours a day and then staying up till midnight doing his paperwork and his invoicing and his pricing, he'd still got nothing to show for it at the end of the month. And does all this sound familiar? Because I know right now a lot of you that are listening to this will be nodding your head and going, do you know what, Craig? That's exactly me. Or I have been in that position, but I've smarted myself up because I've joined your Grove Club, I'm in Inner Circle, or I'm listening to these podcast episodes. And listen, I'm not beating anybody up here because I was as guilty as anyone doing this. And I was a muppet for 12 years. I did this before the penny finally dropped and I realised that I'd been doing it all wrong. And here's the truth. And I know it's brutal. But most tradesmen and women end up in a financial pickle and difficulty, not because they don't work hard. We are, as an industry, we are the hardest grafters I know. The time and effort that we have to put into our business in the trades and construction industry, as hard as it is, I take my hat off to every single one of you. But because they make these 3 massive mistakes with their money, this then leads them to becoming that ultimate busy fool where now they are trading their time for money. Because if they don't put the hours in, if they don't take that extra job in, if they don't work late that night, if they don't put that Saturday shift in to make the money up, they're never going to have enough money to pay that $3,000 bill for that new gearbox, or pay the credit card off, or bring their suppliers up to date, or have enough tax or VAT money to pay the VAT man so we're not getting fined. And the 3 big mistakes I see all the time are what I'm going to be sharing in the rest of this episode. And if you were to continue to keep ignoring these 3 huge mistakes, the pain gets real. You see, you'll work harder than you've ever worked in your life before, but always feel broke. In 5 years' time, you'll be looking back and going, what the fuck's happened? I've been grafting my nuts off. I've worked harder. I've put the time, the sweat and the blood into this business. And here I am 5 years later, not financially massively benefiting from all that hard work. You'll constantly argue with your husband or your wife or your partner at home because money worries start to creep in. Because if your vehicle, which is your business, is not providing you with the financial reward that you and your family feel as though you deserve, but you are also living out your future lifestyle already, as in you're overspending personal wise on the holidays, on the cars, on the house, on the whatever, and your business is not bringing enough money in, all of a sudden now, not only is your business in debt, but you personally are falling deeper and deeper into debt. And I've been there and I know exactly what it feels like. And that creates arguments at home. You start to get stressed. Your cracks start to appear in relationships. You're snapping at your kids and it's not their fault that you're shit with your finances, is it? But the relationship problems start to creep in. And I remember, honestly, late at night, absolutely guts churning because I knew that if I didn't get this job finished by this date at this time, I knew for a fact that I wouldn't have enough money to pay my VAT. I knew that I wouldn't have enough money to pay my wages or my subbies. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to pay my supplier. So here's me now taking deposits off other jobs to try and bail me out of the one that I'm on. And this is exactly what I'm sharing now with what Dave and this example is all around. And if you're using deposit money or you're using your VAT money or you're using your tax money as an overdraft or credit cards to bail you out or you're having to take loans out, then something clearly is financially fucked inside your business and it needs to be sorted out. And then naively, me stroke Dave stroke you naively think, oh, do you know what? Next month, that big job, it's only around the corner. That job that I'm going to land that's going to make me all that profit and be able to pay everybody off is just around the corner. Come on. Really? Don't tell me you sat there waiting for something to happen. Clearly, if we're in a financial pickle, the approach that we've been currently taking in our business is not working. So if you sat there with your fingers crossed, hoping and praying that a big job is around the corner that's going to bail you out, listen, it's not happening. It's never coming. And nobody is coming to save you, right? The only person that can save themselves from getting into this position in the first place or slipping deeper and deeper into financial debt is you. You've got to sort things out. And this is what Dave's having to sort out and I had to sort out 18 years ago. Because if I'd have continued to run my business the way in which I was running it, the business wouldn't have lasted much longer because somebody would have wound me up because when I say wind up as well, I mean a winding up order. I don't mean like angry as in wound up. Somebody, my suppliers, the VAT man, somebody would have wound me up as a business. I had to take massive action. And that's scary, particularly if you're in a financial pickle because you're not thinking straight. Your guts are constantly churning and whirring away. And the last thing that you want to do is really start looking at the numbers in your business. You want to bury your head in the sand and hope and pray that it's all going to go away. Well, listen, it's not going to go away unless you change your approach to how you're running your business, particularly the finances within it. Now, here's the good news. Not only am I going to start to give you the strategies on what you need to do and what these 3 big mistakes are so we can avoid them, but I've got lots of podcast episodes that I've already recorded. They're already live, that will go into so much more detail and give you the exact things that you need wherever you are on your journey. These episodes that I'm going to share with you are going to give you everything that you need to be able to get yourself out of where you are now to where you want to be and achieve financial freedom for you and your family. So if you've ever felt like Dave, working long hours, flat out, but never quite getting ahead, then stick with me, because in this episode, we're going to change everything. So grab a notepad, grab a pen, make your notes, and make notes of the podcast episodes I'm going to share with you. Mistake number 1, write it down. Not knowing your numbers. Not knowing your numbers. So, most tradesmen and women don't run their business with proper financials in place. They're running it on gut feeling, and I used to do the same, and no doubt if you're like Dave, you will be doing the exact same as well. And we'll look at our bank account and think, well, there's money in it, right? We must be doing all right, or otherwise there wouldn't be money in it. But here's the problem. The money in the bank account today doesn't tell you if you're making profit or not. And there'd be months go by where I'm looking at my bank balance like, bearing in mind I set up in 1994, my joinery and construction company, and I'd be looking in 90s, I'd be looking at my bank account and I'd be thinking, well, hang on a minute, it's going up. Listen, I can't remember the exact figures, it were 30 odd years ago, but let's just say some months there were 20 grand in it. Then it'd go up to 30 grand. Then I'd get paid off a job and it might have gone up to 40 grand. Yeah. But behind the corner or round the corner, what I wasn't looking at and what I didn't realise is that money is not mine. Right? Because all that money going into one bank account is dangerous, because you look at it and some months you think you're loaded, but then what's round the corner? You've got your supplier's credit to pay. You've got your invoices to pay, right? So your supplier sends you your money, sends you your invoice. You've got 30, 45 days, whatever to pay it. You pay that, right? Then you don't realise it, but then you've got a VAT bill due. So you've got a VAT bill to pay that you now go ahead and pay. Then you're starting another job, and because you're not taking deposits or interim payments, you're having to use the money that you've built up as a buffer to start the next job. And in my case, scaffolding had to be erected, architects had to be paid for, building regs had to be paid for, structural calculations had to be paid for, skips had to be paid for, timber had to be delivered, all before we'd even start at job. So that 20, 30, 40, 50 grand or whatever it were at that time I didn't bank, some months I used to think I were loaded, and then all of a sudden everything gets paid out and now I'm overdrawn. And I'm thinking, how can I be overdrawn? I had 50 grand in bank a couple of months ago. Where's all the money gone? And this is not unique to me. If we're going to ignore, arguably, the third most important area of business, and oh, by the way, if you've got a notepad and pen, just write these down while I'm on one. The number one area of business is your mindset and personal development. Just write it down, because you cannot build, grow and scale a business unless you build, grow and scale yourself. Number 2 is time management, right? As in, time is more valuable than money. We can always make more money, but we can't make more time. 3 is cash flow. They're the 3 things that kill businesses. The business owner's mindset, when they lose it and they want to throw a towel in and they want to quit. The hours that they work in, or the financial difficulties, they are them. So I'm not unique. I know this doesn't happen to me. Remember, I've coached over 30,000 tradesmen and women. And the vast majority of them, not everyone, but the vast majority, I'd say 8 out of 10, 80%, if I had to have a guess, have all got financial problems because they've ignored the numbers in the business and they've not realised that running a business, you have to understand what these numbers are, because if you don't, you're just winging it like I were, making it up and hoping and praying that you're going to get to the end of that job, end of that week, end of that month, end of that quarter, end of that year, if you're doing financial accounts, 12-month financial accounts, and keep your fingers crossed that you've got enough money in bank to pay everybody out and still have some left for you. And an old boy joiner that I used to do a bit of subcontracting work for years ago, back in the 90s, he said, Craig, I don't need to worry about all this accountancy stuff, right? I'm busy. I've got loads of work on. But having loads of work on and busy doesn't mean to say that you're actually making profit. And if you don't understand the numbers in the business, the likelihood is at best you're breaking even. Then you'll either be making a loss on jobs, or you strike lucky, you make money on one job, but then you lose it on another one, so you're back to breaking even. And when you work out the amount of hours that you're probably working, divided by the profit that you're making, there's more people running trades businesses working for less than minimum wage. It's crazy. So does it not make sense that, hang on a minute, if I'm going to run a business, the business has got to make profit. And the business has got to make profit because that profit is then going to financially reward me and my family, and therefore determine and dictate our lifestyles moving forward. Yes, of course it does. So let me give you some of the numbers that you need to go away and work on. But on top of this, I'm going to give you 2 podcast episodes that's going to go into a lot more detail and nail this for you. But let's just start off with these numbers that you need to go away and learn to start off with. Number 1, you've got to learn how to price a job correctly. And I'm not talking about getting your labour, getting your materials, whacking a bit on top for a drink. I'm not on about that. You have to understand how to quote and price jobs correctly, working out hourly rates and overhead contributions and all that, which I'm going to come on to. Number 2, you need to work out and understand what your gross profit is. Number 3, you need to work out what your net profit is. Number 4, you need to work out what your break-even figure is. Number 5, you need to understand and start running a profit and loss report, whether that's per job or per time scale. And if you are a limited company, you need to understand and be able to read a balance sheet, because it's the balance sheet that's going to give you a snapshot of exactly where your business is and how much value you've got inside your business. Without you not understanding those 6 numbers, if you can't tell me now, Craig, I know how to price jobs. I know what my gross profit is. I know what my net profit is. I know what my break-even figure is. I know how to read and run a profit and loss, and I can read a balance sheet and understand where my business is at. If you can tell me that, you're one step closer to being able to get the numbers right. But if you sat there going, fucking hell, Craig, honestly, I've heard of these numbers, but I ain't got a Scooby-Doo, in all honesty, then you're winging it. And you're going to put yourself in such a vulnerable position. And we can't allow that to happen. You're in the business of making money. So do you not understand that to make money, you have to understand the numbers and understand how we can manipulate the numbers to provide us with more net profit? So the first episode that I want you to go away and listen to is episode number 7. Because in episode number 7, I actually walk you through exactly what gross profit is and net profit, how to work your gross profit out as a number and as a percentage, and how to work out your net profit as a number and a percentage. It's all the margins explained in Idiot Guide, and I walk you through an example of how you do this. So if you don't understand what your gross and net profit is, how the hell can you be running a business? So the first one, go and check out episode number 7. And then The next one I want you to listen to is episode number 43. Because in episode 43, I go through and give you the strategy of how you need to calculate what your dream lifestyle is for you and your family, right? What does that cost you? If I were to say to you, right, when your business is done and built and it's giving you all the money and the finances that you want, what does your lifestyle look like at that point? Because what we've got to do is we've got to build the business to feed the lifestyle, right? Where many of us aren't doing that. We're building a business and hoping and praying there's enough money left at the end of the day, and that's determining our lifestyle, where what we need to do is look at the lifestyle we want, calculate the cost of that and go, right, our business is a vehicle that provides us with a financial reward, and we need this amount of money out of the business to be able to afford to live the way you and your family deserve to live. Are you with me? So I teach you how to cost that lifestyle out and then how to bring that into your business and the numbers in your business. So the business is now providing you with the financial reward that is significantly more than it is now. Then with the money that we take out of the business, we can now build the lifestyle that we deserve for us and our family. So that's episode number 43. Mistake number 2, write this down. Pricing jobs too cheap. And this is probably the most common mistake I see any tradesperson doing, is you don't know how to price a job correctly, so therefore you're not charging enough in the first place. And I get it, because I've been there. You're worried that if you price the job too high, you're not going to win any work, you're going to lose the job. And if you've already started building a team and you're feeding the beast, which is what I call it, where you've got more subbies or more employed staff working for you and you're eating through work and you're thinking to yourself, flipping heck, we've only got a week's work left. At the end of that week, if we ain't got any more working, they're going to be stood around doing nothing, or I'm going to have to lay subbies off and they're great lads and I'll never get them back because someone else will nick them. So therefore, what do? You lower your prices. You put stupid prices in just to win the work, just to get a bit of money coming in to pay your lads. And that's not the right way to do things. You're shaving prices down. You're taking money off your own jobs at this point and putting cheaper quotes than you'd normally do, just so that you're the same price as the bloke down the road and they're charging the same. You convince yourself that, listen, I tell you what I'll do is I'll just lower price and just get a bit of work in just to keep my lads or my staff employed and we've got enough working. What an absolute ridiculous decision to make. Because now you're running a business for free and you're probably losing money. So what's the point of doing the job in the first place? I would much rather have my team stood doing nothing than losing money. Are you with me? And here's the thing that you need to remember is this. Every time you undercharge, or every time you drop your price, or every time you haggle with a customer and they want you to come down because they've had two cheaper quotes and they want to give you a job, but you need to come down X amount to win job, you're only robbing yourself and robbing your family of that lifestyle that you deserve. If you go into our growth club and look at the conversation I had literally last week with an electrician, I'm not going to mention names, right? They put in the growth club that they quoted this job at $2,500. It was a rewire, a small rewire on a small terraced house, right? They put it in at $2,500. And I said to them straight away, that's not enough. Why are you charging $2,500? And they said, because that's what my competitors charge. So I put the price in at the same. I said, that is just like crazy. I said, right, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go away, download the profit and pricing calculator that's inside our growth club, where I've put together a spreadsheet where you just punch the numbers in and it tells you exactly how much you should be charging for a job, including gross profit and net profit and your overheads and everything. And when he went away and did it, just his bare costs alone, without profit, were 2,600. Without any profit whatsoever. So he was technically, if he won that job, he'd be £100 under just even breaking even. That doesn't include anything for his overheads or his gross or his net profit margins. And when I showed him that, he's like, do you know what? That's why I'm in financial difficulty. Yeah, because you don't know how to price jobs. And this is a massive mindset shift that every person that's winging it with the numbers needs to have. Because when we sit down and we go through the profit and pricing calculator and we look at the numbers on what they should be charging, some of them say, Craig, I can't charge that. I'll never win work. I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, hang on a minute. That job I would have put in at that price. Okay. And we've already established that you're losing money or at best breaking even. So why even bother doing it? But if I put it in at that, I'm never going to win the work. I might as well put it in at the low price and at least I've got a wage every week coming in. Whereas if I put it in at a higher price and I don't win that, I've not even got any money coming in for me. I'm like, listen, how small, narrow-minded is that? Let me put a price in so I can at least make a wage. Let me put a price in so I can at least keep my staff and my team going. How small-minded is that? We've got to shift as mindset. And we don't want to be competing on price. When you compete on price, it's literally a race to the bottom. And you already know this. So just because Joe Bloggs down the road charges this, therefore we can't charge higher. Basically, what you're saying is all the competitors that are also shit with the numbers in the business and ain't got a clue what they're doing, you're going to let them dictate to you what you're going to charge. And if you're not making money or you're breaking even at best, how's that going to financially reward you and build a lifestyle for you and your family? You've got to get rid of this mindset of, I can't charge more. I can't put my prices up. Of course you can put your prices up. There's a strategy around we do it, and we've got to lead with the right brand, and we've got to have the right target market, and we've got to have the right marketing message, and we've got to have the right authority. But when we build all this together, you can afford to charge more than everybody else because the target market that you are now going for are prepared to pay that bit extra for the quality work. Do you get what I'm saying? So in a lot of cases, if you're competing on price, it's usually down to you've got poor branding, you've got poor marketing, you're attracting the wrong target market who want things for peanuts and want it for free and want it done yesterday. You've got no brand authority, you're not dominating with your 5-star reviews, you've got no video testimonials on your website of happy customers telling the world how amazing you are. You've got none of this in place, so now you're competing on price rather than value. So moving forward, what we teach you inside our Growth Club is how to price jobs correctly using our profit and pricing calculator that you can just download and it spits out all the numbers for you. Now, I am going to give you a podcast episode, well, 2 actually, that goes into a lot more detail, but let me just quickly tell you how you should be pricing jobs. Write this down. First of all, we have to work out what our actual labour costs are. Because whether you're paying a subby, let's say an hourly rate or a day rate, or you're paying an employed member of staff, and this is even more important, let's say you've got an employed member of staff and they're on the books, you've got to work out what their actual labour rate is. And it's not what you're paying them. So for example, if you've got someone on the books, it's their wages. Then on top of the wages, you've got the national insurance contribution. Then if they're employed, you should be paying into a pension for them. So there's the pension contribution, right? So that now has bumped that hourly rate up But remember, employees have sick days, right? So we've got to say, well, on average, how many sick days are they going to have off? Because somebody's got to pay for them sick days. That's got to be built into your hourly rate over the course of the year. So then we take sick days into consideration. Then we take holidays into consideration, because while you're paying the holiday money, somebody's got to pay for that holiday. You're not paying for it. Your customers have to pay for it over the course of the year. And then what happens if you have what I call downtime days or rain days, where let's say you're a roofer, for example, and they get rained off, you can't work, but you still got to pay your staff. How many downtime days or rain days do you have a year? Because again, somebody's got to pay for them. That's not you, that's your customer. So when we start to look at your hourly rate, there's 6 different things that we've got to factor in to work out actually what is that labour costing us in our business. Because it's not just the wages you pay them, there's a lot more that goes into them. So number one, you're going to work out what your actual labour rate is. That could be on a day rate, that could be an hourly rate. It's entirely up to you. Then what you do once you've got that figure, we're then going to price the materials. And we're going to price the materials correctly. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a markup on the materials. Because you know for a fact that sometimes you do jobs and you don't allow for enough materials. Or sometimes on a job, you've got wastage. Or sometimes on a job, a customer changes their mind on the spec. So we've got the material cost. Then we put a percentage on to mark it up just in case we don't allow enough materials on that job or we've got too much wastage. Now, once you've got your labour and your materials added together, right, the next thing we need to add in is our overheads, because you've got fixed running costs of what it costs you to run your business. You've got insurances, you've got vehicles, you've got marketing, you might have got HR, you've got websites, you've got gas, water, electric, utility bills. For some of you might have a lockup or offices. So you've got all these overheads that you're contributing throughout the year. So for example, if your overheads are £12,000 a year, you know that every month you've got to be adding £1,000 on per month to cover the cost of those overheads. Then once we've added the overhead contribution on for the length of the time of that job, whether it's a 1 hour job or 1 month job, you've still got to put an element of overhead onto that job. So once we've done that, we've then got to say, right, what is the profit margin or percentage that we're going to add on to all of that so that we can then make a profit? And it's that figure is the price that you put in. Now, when we work through this in our growth club or on our inner circle, the first time we do it, 9 out of 10 people are not charging enough when they're pricing jobs. Because number one, they've not worked out the hourly rate correctly. And when we show them how to do that, they're like, do you know what? That makes total sense. Why didn't I think of that? Number two, they're not working out the materials correctly and they're not adding a markup on. Number three, they've got no idea how to work out their overheads and spread them overheads over a period of time or a job. And then they're going like, well, what should I be adding on for profit? What's a decent margin that we should be adding on? Should we add 10% on, 30% on? What do we do, Craig? And this is why I've put together the profit and pricing calculator. It's in the Growth Club. You can download it now with a tutorial on how to use it. And it works out all these numbers for you. You can price a job like that correctly. But when we do this, usually the mindset is flipping heck, Craig. Is that what I should be charging? And I'm like, yeah. If you want to charge the right money to make the right profit, to pay for the lifestyle that you and your family deserve, that's the price you need to put in. And again, even though the numbers are telling them that that's what they've got to do, the mindset is, I can't. I can't put it in it that I'll never win work. And I'm going, you will win work if you've got the right branding and you've got the brand authority and you've got the right marketing and you've got the right messaging and you're attracting the right target market instead of time wasters and tire kickers. So then we get to work on that. And then all of a sudden, they start to attract the people to their business that are prepared to pay them prices. And listen, when I learned all this 18 years ago, I had to do everything that I'm sharing with you now in my business because I was winging it. I got none of this in place and I was winging it and I was skeptical about whether it worked or not. But I'll tell you something, within a 12-month period, we went from losing money to making more profit than we'd made before, and I'd got 9-month waiting list for us to build a loft conversion or an extension. And we were starting to take deposits now, where we take a 10% deposit, put it in an high interest account, not touch it till we started the job. So now I've got hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of deposits in an high interest account, making me money. And we couldn't start their project for 9 months. I actually had a waiting list because I got the numbers right. And then what I did is I attracted the people that I knew were prepared to pay them numbers. And when I did all that, I started making more profit. I started getting out of debt. I started building a lifestyle that I've now got today. And when I say this next, I'm not saying this to be Billy Big Balls, because when you know me, I'm not like this, right? But at the time of recording this podcast now, it's literally 4 o'clock on a Monday afternoon. I literally got back from Norway 2 hours ago. Norway is the 4th holiday abroad that I've had already this year. 2 months ago, I bought a brand new Range Rover Sport. While we've been in Norway, we've just ordered my wife a brand new Tesla. Now, I'm not saying this to be Billy Big Bollocks. What I'm saying is, when you get the numbers right in any business and you're making the correct profit margins, you can then afford the lifestyle that you actually deserve for your family. Do you get what I'm saying? But all that I needed to have a massive mindset shift by me years ago to understand it. And when I understood it and I started working on all this, on the numbers, on the marketing, on the right target market, and I started then to get the work coming in, I was like, this is not rocket science. This is not even hard work. All it took me was to learn this and have a mindset shift. So here's the 2 podcast episodes I want you to go and listen to, right? The first one is episode number 61. And episode 61 is called How to Increase Your Profits. Stop overpaying on your taxes, because I know for sure some of you will be paying too much tax. And how to understand the numbers in your business. And this episode is a episode with Julie Robinson, who's my accountant. And the power of having a good accountant as well, by the way, and is priceless. So go and listen to episode 61 and the conversation that me and Julie have around the numbers in your business. But then, to understand how to price jobs in more detail, which includes your labour and your materials and your overhead and your gross and your net profits and everything that I've just been sharing, go and have a listen to episode number 63. Because in that, I teach you how to correctly calculate your hourly rates and your overheads to price a job correctly. Mistake number 3 is negative cash flow living job to job. Negative cash flow living job to job. And this one is a killer. Because we've all heard the expression, cash is king. And it is. And I want you to write down exactly what I'm going to say here, because honestly, this is so simple. And when I say it like I'm going to say it, you're going to go, do you know what, Craig? You're right. It is so simple. So why is it that most people are fucking up with things like this? Is beyond me. Write this down. All you need to do in a business to make sure that you have not got negative cash flow, because that's what's going to kill your business, is this. You need in a business, write it down, you need in a business to have more money coming in than you've got going out. Let me say it again. All you need to do in your business is make sure you've got more money coming in than you've got going out. How simple is that? Your job as a business owner is to make sure that the money you're getting in from your customers or your clients, domestic, commercial, industrial, it doesn't matter. All you've got to do is bring more money in and not send as much money out. It's that simple. So how can we get it so wrong? That right now there's people out there that's got more money going out than they've got coming in. And that then leads to having a negative cash flow. A negative cash flow is what's going to strangle and suffocate and kill your business. And listen, on paper, you could be making profit. You could actually say, do you know what, Craig? I'm listening to what you're saying, but I run a cash flow forecast and I run a profit and loss. And I know that every single job that we're doing, we are making profit on. So I'm a profitable business. I get that, but you can still go bust or go pop even if you're profitable. Because you could be making money, but you've got more money going out quicker than you've actually got coming in because your cash flow's all over the show. And that is the quickest way to get stressed to the max and have sleepless nights because you've got negative cash flow. So this is not always about you've got more money going out than you've got coming in. You could have gotten the money coming in and you could be making profit, but because you're not getting paid quick enough, you're still having to pay everybody out. You've got more money going out than you've got coming in. So you've got negative cash flow even though you're making profit. And here's what actually happens. You finish a job. You get paid for the job. You see the money go into your bank account. Then, out of that bank account, that day or that week or that month, you've got your wages or your dividends that you're taking out to live off. You might have to buy some new tools. You've got to buy materials and you've got to take from your suppliers or your wholesalers. Because you've been working your bollocks off and you haven't had an holiday for 18 months and you deserve a holiday, you go and book a holiday, but you know you haven't got the money to pay for it. You've got a tax bill due in January that you haven't got the money for. You've got a VAT bill due next month and you haven't got the money for the VAT bill. Your van's just broken down. You see what I'm saying? And suddenly, the money that you had in your bank account, it's gone. And now you're scrambling around trying to get the deposits in from other jobs to bail you out and stay afloat. All because you've got negative cash flow. And I've seen it loads of times where business owners are borrowing money off family members to try and keep them afloat. Or they've maxed out the credit cards because they've put that holiday that they promised the wife and the kids, they've maxed it out. I've even heard of people taking these payday loans to keep afloat. And all because they don't understand the flow of cash. And they've never gone through mistake 1 and 2 and rectified them, which now leaves them in a vulnerable position where the business is spending more money going out of their account than they've got actually coming into account. Now, this is not a quick fix because dependent on how overdrawn, let's say, or in debt you are, this might take some time to pull back round. But the good news is it's more than doable. In fact, lots of people that join my inner circle join because they've made all these mistakes that I've been talking about when it comes to the numbers in the business. And when we sit down and look at it, we'll say, listen, it's doable. We can pull it round. It might take 12 months, 18 months to do it. But if we rectify mistake number 1 and we start looking at the numbers in the business and you get a proper hold and a feel on the numbers and a grip on them, and we start increasing your prices and dealing with mistake number 2, and we put your prices up and we start making you more profit, you're going to make more profit, but it might take 12 months, 18 months to pay that debt off with that increased profit margin before you start to see the fruits of all your hard work. For other people, they're breaking even, so they're not in debt. So therefore, by rectifying steps, mistakes 1 and 2, we can start making more profit next week and you'll start seeing the results. But let me just give you some quick tips before I give you 2 podcast episodes I want you to go away and listen to. If you've got negative cash flow, what you've got to do is immediately slow down the speed in money going out of your bank, which means you're going to have to slow down paying people and you've got to speed up the money coming in. And the quickest and easiest way to do that, if you're not already doing this, is look at improving your payment terms and how quickly you get paid. And I'm a firm believer in taking deposits for jobs, interim payments for jobs, and leaving the smallest amount at the end of the job due, because that then means that you've got the maximum money off the job. We're not ripping anybody off. This is not underhand. All you're doing is you're being clever. And you're saying to that customer, if you want me to do your job, that could be fitting a boiler, that could be solar panels, that could be an extension, that could be skimming out the whole house for a property developer, that could be a re-roof. Whatever trade you're in, there's certain jobs where you need to start to take deposits. So you take the deposit, then what you'll do is you'll have an interim payment, or when I were building extensions, we built in 3 or 4 different payments on certain dates at certain timescales on that job. But at the end of the day, you are not a bank manager. You are not there to finance a stranger's project. If they want the job doing, then they've got to finance their own project. Why should you use your business money or your savings to finance somebody's extension or re-roof? It's crazy. You're not their bank manager. You're not their overdraft. Are you with me? But again, once we've got the right marketing and we've got the right authority and we've got the right brand, customers will feel comfortable in paying you deposits up front. They'll feel comfortable in giving you stage payments throughout a job. And therefore, you're starting to get your money in quicker, but then we've got to slow down at paying our suppliers, as an example, without getting yourself into trouble with your suppliers. And that's the first tip that you've got to do. Now, listen, you might be listening to this and going, Craig, I'm a plumber and I go and fix leaky toilets or put stop taps on and it's £100. I'm not going to do I have to take a deposit for that? No, obviously. You just take full payment as soon as you've done that job that's going to take you an hour. But you take payment there and then. You turn your phone into a card terminal. There's absolutely no way I'd be doing any job where on the final day of the job, and I don't care whether this is a 500 grand extension or a 50 quid stop tap you're fitting, you get payment at the end of the job, and you educate your customer in the lead up to that job that you will be expecting payment on the final day of that job. Are you with me? You've got to speed up the flow of money coming in. And the amount of people that said to me, Craig, I've got cash flow challenges. Can you help me out? And I'll say, well, how much money do people owe you? And they'll go, well, I've sent these invoices out, but the customer's not paid me. Well, how long is it you've been waiting now for this payment? And they go, 6 weeks. I go, fucking what? They'll go, yeah, I sent invoice 6 weeks and they haven't paid me yet because I'm busy and I haven't had time to chase the money. I'm like, why are you chasing them? You shouldn't have to chase them. You should be getting paid on the final day of the job when you finish the job. Why are you waiting? So you look at it and they might have got 100 grand in invoices that have been sent out that they haven't been paid. I'm like, get the damn money in. And then even worse, and you tell me if you've done this, as well as these people who haven't paid me, Craig. I'm actually that busy. I've got 10 invoices that I should have sent out 3 or 4 weeks ago, but I've been that busy, I haven't had time to send me invoices out. I'm like, hang on a minute. Rewind. So now you're telling me that you've got people that owe you money where you sent invoices, but what you're telling me now is you've done jobs, you've finished jobs, and because you're too busy being a busy fool, you're telling me that you hadn't even invoiced that customer and you finished job weeks ago. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, for fuck's sake. This is why you've got a problem. Because the speed of money going out of your bank, you're still paying your suppliers, you're still paying your labour for that job, you're still having to pay the VAT man and the tax, you're still paying all this, you're still having to pay your mobile phone bill every month, you're still having to pay the rent on that unit or that workshop, but you haven't even invoiced your customer. That's why you're in a financial pickle, because you've got more money going out than you've got coming in. So we've got to sort out them payment terms for one. The second tip I'm going to give you is this, and this is a game changer. You've got a current account, right, that I'm guessing most people will have all the money going into one bank account. Some of you will have already listened to previous episodes of this podcast and you've gone away and you've already done what I'm going to tell you to do. But you can't run a business with one bank account. What you need to do is when that money comes into your bank, it's not all yours, is it? You know that only a small percentage of that money is yours because some of it's the VAT man, some of it's the tax man, some of it's your suppliers. It's not yours. So if you've got all that money coming into one bank account, let's say a current account, there are going to be months where you're loaded and you look at your bank account and you go, fucking hell, I've got more money in bank than I've ever had before. I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me go and order a new van. Let's go and book that family holiday to Disney because I'm loaded. But you know what's round the corner. All them bills are due in. And when they've all been paid, you've got no money left. But now you've gone and bought a new van that you couldn't afford. Now you've got and booked that holiday to Disney and promised your kids that you couldn't afford. So what I want you to do is set up another 3 pots or accounts. Now, if you're with online banking like Starling or Tide or any online bank, you can set up separate money pots within the account that you've got. Or if you haven't got an online bank, I'd suggest getting one, but you might have to go back to your existing bank and set up other accounts. Either way, you should have 4 accounts as a bare minimum. Bare minimum. The first account you've already got, which is your current account. And that's where all the money goes into and where you're going to pay your suppliers from. But then what I want you to do is I want you to set up a separate account or a pot called your tax pot. And what you're going to do, as long as your accounts are up to date in QuickBooks and Xero or Free Agent or Sage or whatever you're using, which again, for most people, they're not, and that's why they're in a pickle. But let's say your accounts are up to date. Your Xero or QuickBooks, as example, will be able to tell you how much tax you need to pay that month. Now, I know that you don't always pay your tax every month, but you pay your tax at the end of your financial year. If you are self-employed or you've got a limited company, you know that you've got to pay your tax in January and you've got to pay money on account usually in July. So you've got at least three different periods throughout the year where you've got to pay tax, at least 3. So what you need to do is look at your QuickBooks or your Xero. That's going to say to you, right, Craig, this month, this is how much tax you have to pay. So take the tax money out of the current account and separate it and put it into a tax account. And when you do that and you move it, you do not dip into it. You can't dip into it because it's not your money. The second account that you're going to set up, or pot, is a VAT account. So if you're VAT registered, you need to set up a VAT account. And what we do, and we teach our Inner Circle and Growth Club members to do, is move all 20% of that tax money that you get. It's not yours. You're just a collector of taxes for HMRC, for the VAT man. So that money is never yours. So when you add that 20% VAT on, that's not your money. You shouldn't be touching it. You shouldn't be using it for wages or paying materials or an overdraft, because it's not your money. You're just a collector of taxes. So what we advise you to do is move all 20% of that VAT into a VAT pot or a VAT account, because that money is not yours. Now, listen, I know what you're going to say. You're going to go, yeah, but Craig, I don't give all 20% of that VAT to the VAT man, because I can reclaim VAT on, let's say, my purchases or my invoices from my wholesalers. I can offset that and claim that back. I understand that, but I still want you to put all 20% of your VAT into a VAT account. And then the final pot or account is what I call a savings account. And this is how the savings account works. We've just established that you don't have to pay the full 20% of the VAT money. So it might end up being that actually by the time you've reclaimed your VAT back on your purchases, let's just say for argument's sake, you're actually only paying the VAT man 14%, because the other is what you've reclaimed back. So let's say that you've got 10 grand, which is the whole of the 20% of the VAT that you've been charging for that quarter. Let's say you've got 10 grand in your bank account, in your VAT pot. But you only actually have to pay 14%, which means once you've paid the VAT man his money out, you've got 1,400 quid technically. And what you then do is the VAT money that's left over in the VAT account, you're then going to take that money out every quarter and put it into your savings account. That way, your VAT is always getting covered. And because you're putting the full 20% into your VAT pot, and you know you're going to be reclaiming X amount of pounds or percentages back, you're going to end up with surplus cash left inside that VAT account that would then move out of that and put it into a savings account or a savings pot. And now all of a sudden, you're building up a little nest egg and a little savings pot on the side. I want you to set up them 3 bank accounts or those 3 pots to start separating your money, because remember, that is not your money, so you can't spend it. Now, the challenge here is, for many of you, you'll say, Craig, if I was to do that based on how I'm currently pricing, there wouldn't be any money left, full stop, because I'm not charging enough. I'm not putting the right prices in, or I'm losing money, or I'm breaking even, or I've been having to use my VAT and my tax money as an overdraft. I've got no option but to do that. Where do I start with all this? Well, where you start with it is by getting a meeting set up with your accountant and sitting down with your accountant and not burying your head in the sand any longer. And I know it can be ugly, and I know it can be soul destroying to sit down with your accountant and run through your numbers to find out that you're either breaking even or you're losing money after all that graft. But until you make that mindset shift and sit down and have that meeting and face reality, then nothing's going to change. If you continue to run your business and you're not feeling the benefit financially now, that's telling us that there's something wrong. And the longer you leave it, the bigger the hole you're digging from a financial point of view. And that's just got disaster all over it. And the last thing we want you to go through is all them sleepless nights and all that worry. Graft your bollocks off for all these years. If you're a sole trader and you get yourself in that much of a financial pickle, you're going to go bankrupt. You're going to have to declare yourself bankrupt. You'll lose your house, you'll lose your assets, you'll lose your van, you'll lose the car, you'll lose everything. Your suppliers will take everything off you. If you're a limited company, the likelihood is somebody will put a winding up order on you, wind your business up, and therefore you will go into liquidation and your business will go bust. And even though you're limited and having a limited company, the debt is with the business, not with you. If it materialises that you've been trading insolvent, which basically means you shouldn't have been taking any money out of that business for you personally because the business is too far gone, then yes, the business will get wound up and it'll go bust, but HMRC can still come to you and say, hang on a minute, Dave, the plumber, you've been trading insolvent for 9 months, which means you've been taking money out of this business that you should not have been taking out because the business wasn't making enough profit. And if you've took 30 grand out, for argument's sake, out of that business in a given time period, then the likelihood is HMRC can come for you for that 30 grand, even though you're a limited business. So if you're sat there throughout this episode and any of this is ringing true, or any of this is putting the frighteners on you, and you know deep down that you're not running this business financially properly or viable, please make this the wake-up call that you need, and you get a meeting with your accountant and you sit down and you have a cards on the table conversation and you blurt everything out. You tell your accountant how you're doing things, how you're pricing jobs. You don't understand the numbers. You ain't got these 4 different pots or accounts set up. You've got negative cash flow. You feel as though you're in debt. You've got to go to your accountant and sit down with them first and foremost, and they're going to eventually work out where you are. And for some of you, you might be too far gone. And therefore, you are going to end up in a pickle. But for others, we might be able to catch it in time, and then you work with us or you work with your accountant or whoever to sort out your financial pickle, and we turn the business round. And that's exactly where I were, being honest, 18 years ago, winging it with all my numbers. And again, the vast majority of people that join my inner circle join because of the financial stress. And we can pull it round and we can work on it. Now, I said I'm going to share a couple of podcast episodes with you. I'm actually going to share 3. Because I think if you've got a negative cash flow and you're living job to job, week to week, month to month, and it's hand to mouth, then these 3 episodes are going to give you more information. Write them down. The first one is episode number 14, and that's called How to Structure Your Payment Terms to Avoid Negative Cash Flow Problems. We've just gone through that, haven't we? You need to speed up your money coming in and slow it down going out, so we flick that. That's episode number 14. I then want you to listen to episode number 18, and that is 15 cash flow disasters to avoid that will stop you losing money in your business. Because there's not just the examples I've given you now of negative cash flow. There's 15 different ways in which you can fall into a negative cash flow, and that's a disaster in your business. Episode 18, I share with you how to avoid all that. And then the third episode is episode number 23. And this is an episode that I recorded with one of my inner circle members, Christian Brains. And Christian is a director of a CCTV and security, mainly commercial, but does do domestic work. And this is all about how he's grown his profits by 1,100% since understanding the numbers in his business. You see, in that episode, Christian is honest And everything that we've been sharing so far and all the mistakes that we've covered in this episode, Crisium had made. But when he joined my inner circle, we got to grips and we went to town and we went to work on him understanding the numbers in his business. And when he implemented everything that I shared with him, his profits grew by 1,100%. I mean, what would you do if your profits went up 1,100%? And I'm putting that one in because that's motivation, that's inspiration, because Crisium shares how we were on his knees. He were ready for throwing in the towel after all the years he'd been grafting. But by implementing what I taught him, he's completely revolutionised his business. And actually, since we recorded that episode, his profit margins have gone up even more, and now he's expanded his business. He's just moved into his new premises. He's taking more staff on, but he's doing it right, and he's doing it by letting the numbers tell him what his next move is, what he can afford to invest, when he can expand. He's running the numbers every single month, and it's the numbers that are now making logical financial decisions for him rather than him just been winging it and going, I'm busy, let's move into new offices, because that's what put him into a financial pickle in first place. So that's episode 23 with Crisium Brains. So your action tasks from this episode are very clear, aren't they? I want you to go through these 3 mistakes. Let's start rectifying these. Then I want you to go through the 7 different podcast episodes that's all going to drill down and help you with all this. But remember, you could be working 80 hours a week. You could be busy as hell. You could have got work stacked out in front of you. You could be considering taking more staff on, moving into offices, having your own car parking space and all that lot. You could go and do all that lot and wing it without understanding the numbers and end up in a worse situation than you are right now. You see, making profit is not about how many hours you make, how many hours you work, or what offices you're in, or how many vans you've got on the road. I'm not bothered about any of that. Making profit is about being smart. How can we work the least amount of hours for the maximum amount of profitability? And the only way you're going to work that out is by getting top side of your numbers once and for all. How on earth can you build, grow, scale a profitable business by winging it, keeping your fingers crossed and hoping that whatever you're doing is working? That is absolutely crazy. Get a meeting booked with your accountant immediately. Go through all the numbers straight away. Review your pricing. Open those extra bank accounts or pots and start planning for cash flow. Do it now. Your future self is begging you to do it now. So 2 quick favours I'm going to ask you, if you will. If you've got value from this episode, what I'd love you to do is hit the follow button, or if it's on YouTube, the subscribe button on whatever channel you're listening to this episode on right now, because the more followers or subscribers we get, clearly the more the platform's going to push this episode and future episodes out to more people that need to hear what we've covered today. So please follow and subscribers, and then copy the URL link and please share it on Facebook, share it on LinkedIn. The more people we can help financially get themselves out of a pickle, the better it is. And finally, if you sat there going, Craig, keep hearing you talking about this Growth Club. What's this Growth Club all about? Listen, in the show notes and the description of this episode, there's a link for you to go and check out our Growth Club. And inside the Growth Club, we've got a full-blown course that goes through all of these numbers. You can download our profit and pricing calculator. You get to meet Julie, my accountant. Julie's inside the group. She'll help you with all your numbers and point you in the right direction. If your accountant's not helping you, we can give you that help and support. Click the link, go and check it out, and if you think it's for you, consider joining us. And as you know, I always finish off with a little, let's say, famous or common quote that I always share, just to keep reinforcing into your subconscious mind everything we do. But in this case, I'm going to hit you with two, because these two are absolutely relevant to what we've covered. The first one is this, and this should be tattooed on your brain right now, right? Because I say it all the time. The business is never the problem. The problem is always the mindset of the business owner. You see, the business is not the problem. With respect, you and your mindset's the problem, because what you're doing now, if it's not working, you need to change the approach. But the only way you're going to change the approach and motivate yourself to take additional action is by having a shift in that mindset. And that's why I'm saying the business is not the problem. With respect, you're the bottleneck and you're the problem in your business. The second quote I'm going to give you is this. For things to change, you have to change, or all you'll ever have in your pocket is change. Think about it. If you are broke, skint, in debt, having them sleepless nights, worrying about money, you're the problem. You've brought yourself to this point. And the only thing that's going to change is you changing them circumstances and making better decisions moving forward. And when we start to change our mindset, then no longer will we have change in his pockets. As Crisium in the episode I've asked you to go away and listen to, as me, as proof, as the 30,000 other tradesmen and women that we've coached, is proof that when things change, you can change, and therefore you'll not have change in your pocket, you'll have net profits in your bank account. I'll catch up with you on next week's episode, and I'll meet you at the top. Thank you.